Change. We live in a constantly changing world, often forcing us to keep up, adapt, or die. Like Joanne Harris once said, change isn't always comfortable, but it's a fact of life. The way we transact is also constantly changing, often forcing us to evolve. I mean, we've moved from bank checks to electronic transfers to mobile and digital payments. Sometimes this change remains very uncomfortable for a lot of trailblazers. Hello, fellow trailblazers. Welcome to another episode on My Money Adventures podcast. If you're new to the channel, my name is Tukiso TK Ntebe, and on this channel, we talk everything finance, well-being, and wealth creation. Now, today's conversation is really one I am excited to have because in studio, I have two guests from the Bank of the Changeables. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode where I speak to the team from FNB Lesotho, and we will be definitely talking about FNB Lesotho's card localization and how that impacts you as our fellow trailblazers. Melinda, good morning and welcome to My Money Adventures podcast.
Morning to you too.
All right. Halas wa get the next. Okay, so for Batwasa let's maybe start with introductions. Tell us a bit about yourself and where you come from.
Okay.
Starting with you.
I look after the retail business of FNB Lesotho. So that is mainly your personal market.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Daddy?
I look after the commercial and corporate and investment banking for FNB.
Aha.
And when I put it succinctly, I always say, okay,
great. No, I love that. Money Adventures podcast, right? So, traditional is we always want to understand what's your relationship with money. So, how would you mentally describe your relationship with money and how has it changed over the years?
I would say it's a frank one.
Frank one.
It's a frank one.
Okay.
A frank one, given that I think before we interacted or before Chaledasa Pasele, when we did the discussions on it, but we have now come to a point where we're saying what is important, what is not important, not mainly around also sacrificing in terms of happiness, which is what the challenge was mainly on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance your saving and investment together with also living?
Mm-hmm. Balance. I like that. What's?
Look, so for myself, my understanding of money has evolved a lot over the years.
Okay.
I'll speak both business and personally. At the onset, I used to interact with money from a perspective that money equals.
Okay.
So if you said, what is money? I would always tell you what money equals. It's a nice house, it's a nice car, it's a good lifestyle. Then I quickly learned that that's not what money is. And so I thought, no,
Mm-hmm.
Then over the years, I realized currency is just a language. If I talk pounds,
Mm-hmm.
So I then realized that actually money to me is a measure of value.
Mm-hmm.
And it means. So that's really where I am, and that's my relationship with money today.
So now that your money has changed over the years from balance to value, right? FNB is also undergoing a lot of changes currently, right? So for people who may not be aware, can you paint us a bit of a picture about debit card localization? What does that picture look like? Where were we before? Where are we now, and where are we going in that context?
So I will start with localization overall and then move into the debit card piece from a personal perspective, and then most will come in under CCIB.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at localization, there's a lot that we have been doing under our parent company, being FNB South Africa. So we know of the CME or the Common Monetary Area changes that are upcoming, of which we saw the Central Bank talking about. So that's something yet to also be discussed. But particular to the card localization, Now, from an issuing perspective, that is where we're saying to the debit card holder, as FNB Lesotho, we used to have our license under FNB South Africa, but that has since changed, where now the licensing is specific to FNB Lesotho, meaning that the currency now of the card is no longer ZAR or South African rands, but rather Maluti. Well, when you look at the 6 numbers, the debit card that you hold, FNB, and then you do a bin search, you will see that the issuing country is now Lesotho.
Lesotho. Okay. Do you want to add on to that, Kapo?
It's always good. So Ntai is obviously sitting on the card holder's side of the story, and I'm sitting on the merchant, Kapo Motena Tsuring, the merchant services device in our world. And there as well, the narrative is the same. Anytime we gave a business person, large and small, a merchant services device, that merchant service device was obviously rand-based. The administration and the settlement of transactions was rand-based. Today, it's very exciting for us when we actually bring that infrastructure into the country, and it's now locally based as a technology and at a currency settlement level. That is to say, they pay homage to our economy, our currency, and our environment.
I like the fact that it's coming home. So what does it mean for FNB clients? As an individual, how does this debit card localization, what does it mean for me? You got what you just explained, but a consumer of a client at FNB, what does it actually mean, and why should I care? Why is it important for me to know about the localization?
Okay. So, the good thing we have already localized. And yes, there has been an impact onto clients, especially when you talk of the international wallets, but I will talk to that later. But now we knew that when you were using it in South Africa, it was seen as local in South Africa, is now international in South Africa. And it being international, it then says FNB Lesotho. Now, from a pricing perspective, it charges you international fees when you transact in South Africa. Now, with your FNB card, you would go any other bank in South Africa, and then the fees are minimal in terms of cash withdrawals. But now the fees have escalated a little bit, looking at the fact that Rojale is now an international transaction, which is where now when you look into our pricing guide, you will realize for international withdrawals now is roughly around 66 rates. So also, when you look at from a post perspective, beyond South Africa, nothing has changed. But now in South Africa, the transaction is also seen as international. So when we did this change around the 18th of February, that is where we had customers now saying, like for instance, when a POS terminal, a transaction into 1,000, you see a reservation of around 1,020, which is the 20 rand being what we call OIF, Kappa currency conversion fee, or international transaction fee, of which is coupled in the transaction. So we have since waived that OIF, and our reasons in terms of the readiness in the market. We have other banks, the debit card wise, is a localizer. We are now coming in as FNB Lesotho right now in February. There are other banks that are yet to come in. But in terms of now the merchant acquiring, it's a different story. Majority are still South African based. And as FNB Lesotho, it will not be fair to a client when you get to one of our merchants or a transaction and then you see something of a different amount. So that is why we actually zeroized that fee and reimbursed our clients on those fees. So the fee, when we do take it back into the market, definitely there will be communication to our customers. But important to note, we do have a bundled offering in terms of pricing. We were not charging for any POS transactions, including South Africa. But now, because of that differences in the currencies, in the LSL card, and now the ZAR terminal in SA, we are now charging customers around 360 for the POS transaction, of which is things that we also need to clearly communicate with our customers.
Okay. Any additions before I move on to?
It's been very daunting for a lot of the clients. And like we said, myself and Tabeleng, she's on the left and I'm on the right. So she's looking at the consumer, I'm looking at the businesses. So I want to put it very explicitly. To the company, the entrepreneur, and the big business owner, that's wearing a merchant services device, POS device, muchuno swipang wa FNB. There is no impact adverse in terms of their user experience. Absolutely none.
So business as usual.
So it's business as usual. From the owner and from the business side, it's completely business as usual. From the cardholder perspective, if the machine was Lesotho and it exchanges money in Loti, in the event that the cardholder, the loaded currency is not loaded, it evokes the charges that Menta spoke to. But at a merchant and at a business owner level, we are actually looking forward to much more exciting developments where transactions settle quicker and we can build better and more innovative solutions.
So I've got two questions based on what you just said now. The first one is, what drove the change? Is it a uniquely FNB Lesotho thing? Is it legislation? How did we get to localization? And then following on to that question is, in fact, let me ask that question and I'll come back to the second one later on. What drove the change? Because I'm sure there's a trailblazer who's watching. You are like, into FNB, are all the other banks also going through the same process? Why are we doing this? So yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, so before I get to that, there's another customer that we need to talk about. That is any other card which is not the Lesotho issued card that is transacting on our ATMs. So FNB South Africa, I can go to an FNB ATM card, I'm sorted, it's still a local transaction, but that is not the case anymore. So it then says whoever is holding a South African issued debit card, when you get to FNB ATMs, is now an international transaction. So our recommendation is you have to be very cognizant of what your bank is charging in terms of international ATM fees. You're also aware that for some banks, you find that you are actually requesting 400 as an example out of our ATM. But generally, on your statement, which is what we talked about, the currency conversion. Yes. So that's the piece that I also had to make sure I address. So to your question, is this an FNB thing about what is happening? It's actually at the back of legislation. As the, I can say, as the four banks in country, you find this are actually switching South Africa, where transactions where as the parent bank is based SA. So some of them switch through Visa or MasterCard, depending on the issuing. So this is done through the central bank. A clear view in terms of money activity in country. We have a lot of challenges around money laundering and everything. So the localization, there's a national payment switch. The central bank and I think where it looked into the what do you call them? The
regulations.
Your mobile monies.
Oh, okay.
We're looking at the instant payments. You can move your money from any wallet, including your other small wallets, into any other, and then the funds are actually reflecting immediately. And now we come into the card stream, which is now your debit card, your ATM acquiring, as well as your POS acquiring. So we have indicated, or other banks from a debit card and ATM perspective, they had always been in local. Yeah, we only came in now in February as FNB Lesotho. Other banks are yet to follow. So when the national switch kicks in and then we start switching through it, e tlo thusana ka hore we know o tlo fumana hore when the transaction is taking time pele e ka ya o debit but in the whole delay your funds. So it's a lot more of a immediate, should not necessarily immediate, but same day clearing of those transactions. Ebile being cheaper as well.
Oh,
so
being
that's the benefit, because when
being
you
cheaper.
switch the central bank, how can the central bank on agenda is very cautious in terms of what is reasonable from a customer's fees. So they're actually going to be regulating that, and also they are striving for cashless society. It then says, okay, in terms of now the interchange fees for merchants, what is reasonable, such that you get to have your POS devices placed almost everywhere for ease of transacting.
I think you touched a bit on the question I wanted to ask, Nadimuseag, settlement. In terms of settlement, I know previously it used to happen in South Africa. Is it now happening within country? And how does that impact the end consumer, lady merchant, from a settlement perspective?
Yeah. So, to answer this, right, and sort of to give a proper, succinct view. So, it has spoke to the fact that there was a shift in legislation, and that all the banks are on the journey. Although be at different stages of the journey, we are all on the journey. Yet, there's something we should take very strongly. Right? The economy, it has to grow. Right? And we will all agree that economy. Right? And when you asked me what's my relationship with money, and I said it's a means. Money in an economy is like oxygen or lifeblood. So if somebody buys an item from you and you will only get that money tomorrow, because you are saying, I can't replenish my stock immediately. So this economy and this money circulates seamlessly in the country. And that is why, over and above regulation, it is the best and the most strategic thing to do for growing the economy in the long run. Right? Right? This is why I want people to appreciate it is that lubrication that's quite important. So then what does it mean, Lorena, where it is? Yes, there was regulation, but it says we are going to be able to the entire system, all the banks, all the mobile monies. Then the velocity, and the economy grows so much better. Your ins and outs, and the ability to extend credit is going to be better. So it is a big journey around the entire payment landscape. So that is really where that drive is coming from. With or without regulation, it's something that we would always want to do. Right?
Okay.
And because this is a very dense subject matter, right? Get to the basics. How does a card and a merchant device operate? A, if you're a business and you say, I want to allow my clients to pay kakaret, then you go to the bank and we give you a machine. Right? And that machine, it is now going to settle payments in Malut. When the card holder a swipe, right? The owner of the device ukenya value ya tipa yewe patala, right? And then the card holder molaitsa on we ya banking ya the card holder. O re ke na le motho ha o mona re ka nthepa ya bokana o na le tšhelete e kalo ka account ke mo gona o tla bona o bidika o ina jwale ebe banka yane ye nngwe e re eya ona le tšhelete. It could be the same bank le yona e nyagele ka mone bona go bona le tšhelete. And then ha ba kata ho dumelana o re tšhelete e ha ke maluti kapa ke diranta If it is a different currency, ke mane mo ke reng se re hloka dollar ko dipakeng ha re buisana ha go utlwisisana, then that intermediary comes in. Ke mo gona ke reng ha o sheba karata ya hao, there is the bank's name and the intermediary, the translator of currency services. So ho bolelang hore that is where the charge originates, not from the guy holding the device. The guy holding from the device or the business holding the device, is it in the right currency? Na ke mo charge le 500 malut. And what does that bank and that device then ask for? 500 malut. If the currency is different, then their bank will say to them, there is a message when al 500 malut. You do not have malut, you've got another currency. I'm going to charge you, I'm going to charge you to translate this money you have in your account into malut and deliver it to the other bank. And that is what Menta is talking to Harry. There is an international translation, a fee. I get it, currencies to me are language. And then the money flows.
And this dollar is Visa or MasterCard.
That is what we're speaking to. And so the money flows.
Okay, so some of there's been a big concern and maybe uncertainty how third parties that you may work with, couple previously worked with under the old way of business, that I used to be able to move money from my FNB, from my PayPal account into FNB. How has that impacted FNB Lesotho specifically? And what's the way forward for a lot of trailblazers who are used to the service offering? It's a difficult one.
Because now the impact, they only saw it without prior communication. So not just the wallets, but also in terms of other transactions. You look at what we do in terms of betting, like your soccer thing, they would do it using their debit cards. But that has since stopped, mainly guided by what is permissible in terms of the laws that debit card usage in Lesotho. Now, looking into PayPal, yes, you can move money from your FNB account into PayPal. The issue now is how do you then have that been returned into your account, which is what we are looking at. And it's one of those things that I said, these regulations are mainly to address the issues of anti-money laundering. We actually screen those transactions, and then the comfortable the money starts kicking in. So it gets on we are working tirelessly to make sure that we resolve, and once we are up and running, Lesotho will definitely know.
I think the other question I wanted to ask earlier on, thank you for that question. You touched a bit on it, the cut-off times, So for a consumer, for a customer at FNB, when I do, is there concern where I use my debit card FNB Lesotho in other countries, for example, Namibia or Eswatini, and I'm swiping my FNB card? Should there be any concerns? Because I went on social media and people were like, so I just wanted to clarify if there are such issues, and if they are, what could be the cause, and to now what steps those affected customers need to take.
Okay, so we're not expecting customers not to be able to transact anywhere. So where we have such issues, we do engage with a particular client as well for what is the problem. So like we're saying, when you are used to transacting locally and then now your card is transacting internationally, or some rules to say we need to be on the lookout if some of the customer is sort of like compromised. So as a client, when you have issues or anything with your card, don't always take it out on social media, because the moment you do that, these guys are always on the lookout. So it's important that when you have issues, you take it directly with the bank, what is actually happening. So some attempts on the card unaware, right? Yes, let's say for instance you are in Namibia, but we're seeing an attempt also that is happening, then your card is not going to work. And what is important, we will look into what are the issues with your card, and then you'll be able to transact. Or from the 18th, when we did the localization, we had to ensure wherever there's an FNB card, ikaba India or Guy, is transacting. And I remember for that afternoon, we actually sit in about Bisa. We are comfortable. There's a transaction in India, there's one in Indonesia, there's one. And for that, okay, we think we have done what is necessary from a localization perspective. And hangata, when you localize TK, expectation the plastic that I hold definitely needs to be changed. But I think we have been smart in setting ourselves as FNB. With the plastics that the customers hold, they're actually now Lesotho-based cards. And we didn't cause the stress and everything.
Convenience.
So
I can basically continue transacting with my card
from the 18th
seamlessly.
of February.
Other than PayPal. Other than PayPal, which is work in progress. Okay.
Yeah.
So FNB is the bank of the changeables. You guys are young, digital, embracing technology. What can we expect from this amazing bank going forward in 2024? Any highlights? Anything that you guys want to share? Well, that is safe to share at this current moment. Let me ask the question differently. For people who are watching this episode who are not FNB clients, why should they switch to FNB?
So I'll answer both questions. And then Mots will come in on his side as well. There's a lot in terms of recommendations that customers have been coming forth in terms of convenience to say we need. Some of the things you would expect, or maybe as FNB already have them in the market, but it's just that we are going to have now those changes coming in, dealing ada, and the messaging, yes, it's going to land, but it will be a number of messages to say you can now get statement, you can now get your confirmation, all those different things. So kids on to say they will definitely be coming in this year. So the issue of the question of why FNB, it will be why not FNB. So the one thing that I love and how we do things FNB is that our products are meant to solution to what the challenges we see in the market, and that is why we go by how can we help you. When you look at from a transact perspective, that is the account that we hold as individuals. There's a serious challenge around unemployment rate. The serious challenge around retrenchment. So that is why we had to then enhance our solutions and find a partner. We introduce retrenchment cover. As you wait for a couple of months looking for a job, at least we should give you 5,000 to make things pass by. That is a minimum amount, and then the maximum that we offer, it's at 20,000. And all that we are paying for it as FNB. All you do is just pay your management fee. You will not get a deduction in retrenchment cover towards FNB Lesotho. And the other thing that we are intentionally working on, the money relationship. How do we work on that? Which is something that we have already started when you look at the KISS program that we launched last year. One of the challenges we have a highly indebted society, and that is because we never got a chance in our lives. People what is your relationship with money? Which is now what we're now trying to unpack. Okay, bring your child. We've got an education program where we're partnering with another visionary mentors, if I can just put it like that. Bring your child, let them know the ABCs beyond apple to zebra. But how do I now, what is an asset, what is a budget, or the ABCs around financial matters. And our lending solutions also, like I said, mainly to address the challenges is Zabasot. Yes.
No, I mean, that's so. A lot of the times, we are known for very good platforms and transactability and solutions. I think what one has to strongly consider, right? What one strongly has to consider. And I'll speak to this entrepreneur, the small, medium enterprise business, all the way to the large corporate. If you have questions, if you need solutions, you have to strongly consider FNB, right? If you're a small entrepreneur with an account with us, we've got a technology that tracks that activity so that we can mark and support you with credit, right? That is what is going to grow your business. But by far the most important thing is the people that we have in the team that we're also offering. We strongly believe in thought leadership, and we strongly believe in supporting the economy from the bottom all the way through. So the biggest evolution we're going through now is going from being just your normal bank, which is transactional and credit, and we're moving up the value curve in terms of advisory and consultancy as a business. That is going to be the most critical thing when you look at the change that is happening globally and in the country. But by far the biggest change, the economy is transitioning, both in terms of its structure and the custodians and the generation. There's a very big transfer of wealth generationally, and the economy is changing as well. So if you need all these solutions, if you need somebody to have a conversation with, somebody who understands how this economy works, somebody who can help you position your business, raise capital, go to the debt markets, there's a lot that we're investing in. We are actually, this person specializes in mining and construction. This person specializes in real estate and fast retail moving goods. Because we understand that you don't need to speak to a banker who is the product. You actually need a banker who is what is your operating environment? How does that sector work? And what do you need to succeed? So if anything, consider us for the advisory and the propensity to solution for very complex problems in the market. We have written deals as small as 50,000 and as high as 250 million. So we want you to strongly consider us at an SME level all the way to a CIB business level.
Wow. Okay. From traditional banking to money coupled with advisory. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode was proudly brought to you by FNB Lesotho. Thank you, Ndate. Thank you, Mentabeleng. And of course, if you do need more information, visit the FNB website, which is www.fnb.co.ls. But don't just stop there. Leave your comment and questions below in the comment section and let us know what you think about this conversation. If you do have any other concerns, questions, or comments regarding the conversation, drop them there and we will make sure that the team at FNB sees them and responds to them as quickly as possible, because we do care about you as a trailblazer and we want you to achieve your financial goals. Remember to also listen to this podcast, which is also available on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And be sure to visit our website, www.mymoneyadventures.com, and sign up for our free email newsletter for all personal finance content. And of course, remember to like, comment, share this episode, and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode was really quite eye-opening for myself, and I hope it was for you too. Like FNB says, the bank of the changeables, real help, and how can we help you? And from us at My Money Adventures podcast, we say money is an adventure. Let's keep enjoying the ride. I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.